Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
Hey, come on in. It's time for us to get started. It's time for us to get fired up, motivated, get some inspiration, get some education. For when we know that when life comes and kicks us in the teeth, we know that life is worth living and we can push through it and have a better life. And then what happens after that? We help the next person ahead of us. We pay it forward. All right, today we're going to be talking about how this lady here, she got kind of overwhelmed in life, taking care of a husband, working 50, 60 hours a week, not to mention children, okay? And since she was all fed up, she's all wired up and anxiety hit and everything, she said she took her BlackBerry and threw it across the car. That's when she realized things need to change. All right, so let's get all going here with Stacy. Oh, you have to give me the last name again.
McAlpine.
McAlpine.
Right. Alpine Mountains.
There we go. And, she goes by the Journey Fuel. All right. So, Stacy, thank you for coming on and sharing. I tell people sharing your valuable time because we know the time is valuable. And thank you for coming in and sharing with us and getting us all fired up, motivated, ready to know that we can do something in life no matter what happens.
Absolutely.
All right. I provide the platform. You take off and do your thing.
Sounds good to me. So now I'm just sharing.
I was going to say, go ahead, go.
All right, let's do this. So first, I just really appreciate the opportunity. This one of the things I've heard in the past is, time is the most precious gift we can give because it's the one thing we can never get back. And so I always want to make sure that I'm respectful of other people's time and hoping to bring value, and being able to do that with you is so exciting. So in terms of perseverance, we all have our own version, and I'm 100% believer in sharing what each of us goes through because we're all at different stages in our lives, no matter where it is. And, one thing can hit a heartstring and change everything. And, even if it's a quote that we hear at the right time that we've heard 100 times, and, we hear it at the right time. And one of them for me was, life is to be enjoyed, not endured. And at the time, the word endure really just kind of hit me in the gut and the heart of I was totally enduring life. Like I was waiting, to find out, is this purgatory? What did I do that I just haven't figured out, that I just keep getting put here? Mm-hmm. And, you hit on it before. I just remembered I was 46. I thought I was 44 up until someone told me differently last month.
Tim was supposed to tell you 42, not 46.
Yeah, right. Well, somebody said, I was on another podcast interview actually a little earlier, and they said, anytime in COVID, it's that we've found that whatever age you think you are or wherever you're at, add 2 years, and that's where we really are. So we forget all the celebrations in between that we forgot to do or didn't get to do to remind us of where we are. So, where the value of the story I'm hoping to provide here is that to use our feelings to guide our journeys, and that when we do that, it's not as hard as we make it out to be to find our direction in life. I've found that over the course of my life paths, I went from I was in consulting for 20 years. I worked for big companies like Ernst & Young and PricewaterhouseCoopers and Bearing Point, that's now Deloitte, all those names out there that are global 200,000 person organizations making a difference. And Ernst & Young's tagline, I guess, was building a better working world. So, even if you think about it as a big company, you really think about, what's the difference that you're here to make, no matter where you're at. And so that's what I loved about consulting, was it was all about helping organizations get more value to what projects that they were trying to deliver, business process improvement and change management. Those were my key focus areas. And all that means is that if they wanted to do something that they couldn't do on their own, they'd bring in a project manager to help guide the way to the outcome that they were looking for. Business process improvement, I think we've all been in a place where things could be smoother, having to go through things that seem unnecessary or just constant frustration. How do you take the friction out of the process to get to the outcome faster? And change management is really, there's always change that goes into anything that's new or different, or just every day, we're having to be flexible and make change. But change management in the consulting world is when you have a big project, when you have to get all these people on board in order to make the change, like whether it's 250,000 people or a single person, change requires the same process. So in consulting, it's how to get people to take action is really all it is, and guiding that action into a path that is required to get the outcome that you want. So when I was thinking about, for all those years in consulting, all these tools and techniques, that it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's, I helped a 2-star general help her colonels across the northern region be able to figure out how to achieve their goals, like reduce the suicide rate. Pretty heavy things too. Same exact process and framework to how to install a new system to manage $1 billion. It's like very different ends of the spectrum, but it's all the same framework, all the same steps that are, we like to say rinse and repeat. Say leverage. We like to say all those consulting words, right? But it's how change is achieved is really a process. And so when we go through that process of, well, you have to know what change you want to make. And we know that we sometimes, if all we know is we just don't want what we want right now, that doesn't really help get to an outcome. It doesn't give you direction. So if we know we don't want what we have right now, well, why? What is the feeling that it's giving us that we don't want? And what about that would we want to feel instead? And by knowing what we want to feel instead, we're acknowledging where we are, because having an awareness is in consulting and change management, that is the first step. If you skip that, all the other stuff doesn't sink in, and it certainly doesn't stick. So that awareness is really important. But then the next piece is to build desire. So to go from awareness to desire is the next piece of change management. So to build the desire, it's where do you want to go instead? And a lot of times that can stump people. That did for me for a long time. And it took me a decade to get out of a life that I would not love waking up to, and for all kinds of reasons. And it's not knowing what else. What I know, I don't want this, but I don't know what I want instead. And so if you take out what I want instead how I want to feel instead. I mean, if you really just think about that, it's a total paradigm shift in how to approach something.
It makes me think about where you're talking here is how do you know where you're going to go if you have no idea where you're going to get to? And so, how you know where to stop at if you have no idea where you're going to. So you got to have a little plan involved with it.
Yeah. And even it's a matter of, even in the term plan too, some people that freaks them out. So even though a plan is important, it's like, how do you change the language around it so that you don't have the feeling you have against a plan? It's like,
a plan is there as a guideline for us.
Totally.
But what freaks a lot of people out, I would think, would be that the uncertainty of what this plan has in the future.
For sure.
I want this, but how am I about to get this? And 100%. What if something blocks my way? What do I do? So a lot of people, it's the uncertainty.
It is, absolutely. And, the program that's my foundation program that all of the people that I work with, all my journeyers of Journey Fuel, my Love and Lifers, that's the foundation. It's a 2.5-day program where the 3 days are, the first one's clarity, the second day certainty, and then the last day is activation. So until we can get clarity, I relate it to like a snow globe. When you see a snow globe, it's like this crazy thing, like all this stuff, and it's just so chaotic. But then if we can just stop and let the snow settle, it's a very different experience. And sometimes we just need to get it to slow down to get to a place where we can start to get the clarity. And to get clarity, we could spin on the conversation with ourselves all the time. Well, I don't know what I want. And I don't know what the uncertainty. I don't know. But instead it's like, well, what do I want to feel? And then it's, what are some things I can do to get that feeling? And then it starts to become clear. It starts to give you direction other than just, I don't know what I want. Well, you don't have to know what you want. It's how do you want to feel? Because in the end, life is just an experience of feelings.
I once heard it before that the life is like a box of chocolates. I forgot who said that, but no,
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, that's right. That was big old Forrest. That's right. I'm just trying to put a little humor in there with you.
Well, for sure. And it really, and it goes
I like
back.
your snow globe metaphor using that, because again, when you shake it up, it's just a snow blizzard all over the place. You can't see a foot in front of you. But once you let everything start settling down, start calming down in yourself, then you have more of a visualization what you want to do and what to come.
Yeah, so a lot of times it's already in there. We're just so spun up, and the more questions we ask ourselves, sometimes it can just keep that snow, going. And so the things that I focus on with my programs is really around, well, how can you get that to stop? Because when I was building Journey Fuel, the where I went was, so a decade ago when I had the BlackBerry moment, and I knew something had to change. I really just focused on, okay, well, I've been this personal development nerd for so long. Why am I not getting it different? Like, what, I know what to do, ish.
That's right.
But so I'm not doing it. So what's the deal? So then I started looking at consulting and the skills that I was using with my clients. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just pretend I'm a client and I'll do those things. And so I started applying these frameworks that are absolutely, applicable to any different type of a scenario, coupled that with all the things that we learn and all these personal development and cool podcasts like yours, right?
All right. She said cool, people. She says, cool. I got a cool one. All right.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's how to not be happy with being in a place like this. So, right, like bringing up people's energy. And so the good kind of energy, the productive kind of energy. But so it's like, so it's all about how do you put those things together to make progress? And then how do you take all the stress language out? So all the boring out. So instead of goals, it's destinations. Instead of, measures, it's a dashboard. Instead of strategy, it's a map, and it shifts the brain. It's like hearing the right quote at the right time. Like if you're just thinking about goals and strategy and let's do a vision, and it could just start to be like, but I've done that 100 times. And in fact, I kind of hate that. I just did a program this last weekend, Walk the Talk weekend. And what I love is every time I do one, the people that are there, my Walk the Talk weekenders, I leave it up to them sometimes if, here's what I call it. But if there's something else that resonates more or brings you more like a magnetism to it versus like a should, because the goal is to take all the shoulds out. So if it feels like a should.
Well, it's an understanding, a more believing system with it. It's just interchanging the terms that keeps them interested. Yeah.
Exactly, because the power of language, I mean, it really can change everything, hearing the right word, or the wrong word for us. And so what he said was like values was really kind of turning them off, because what we do is we come up with what are our core 7 values. And so he's like, but when you said values, I just sort of got kind of turned off. And so I was like, well, what about treasures? And that just like, now it's become a treasure map for him. And it totally turned him back on. And now the other people in the program were like, yeah, I'm going to call mine treasures too. And I'm going to call mine treasures too. I changed the term to-do list to playlist. I don't use to-do list. It's a should, So it's that same thing. Like if you're feeling turned off, or if you're feeling overwhelmed, how do you want to feel instead? Well, I want to feel like this. Well, what could I do that could get me closer to that feeling? And that's really all it is. Because feelings, by doing it by feelings, a lot of times we like freak out about feelings even, we're not necessarily trained to follow our feelings, at least not in our generation. Maybe
Mhm.
millennials are more all about that. But
Yeah, they're on the sleeves a little too much for me.
right, it's like, let's just be what we want to be in life and never mind the rest. And we weren't all raised that way, some of us, but
Hey, I hear your cat.
oh yeah, that's Jack. His full name is Captain Jack Myers Sparrow McAlpine, but he
I,
goes by Jack.
I say cat now. I know what a dog sounds like. I'm just messing with
Right,
you.
yeah, it
So,
sounds like he's a little dog, so you
Captain
can,
Jack. There you go. I like it.
yeah, Captain Jack.
Okay. So and yeah, go back to the to-do list. Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of people when they hear I got a to-do list or a honey-do list,
Uh-huh.
they're thinking, "Oh, great, I got to go do all this," and
Yeah.
oh, well, yeah. But yeah, when you change the terminology,
Yeah.
to would you say you change it to
Playlist.
playlist? That's right. Yeah. And so now we get to go play and go do things.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
there, yeah, just the change the
Exactly.
terminology can change
Totally.
the attitude as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like all the things you're doing, right? Like putting a cape on the handicap symbol. It changes everything. My
Get that
dad was in a
Superman
wheelchair.
look.
So yeah, I know the struggles of shifting the level of mobility and things in life. And my dad went through that. He went from walking to falling down and needing a cane to needing a manual to needing an electric wheelchair, and then having to have a
Oh, I got
lift.
to stop you there. Now I got a quick story. I
Uh huh.
learned this a long time ago, and I'm just educating you here
Uh
now,
huh.
Stacy. One day I saw this guy in a electric chair, and
Mm-hmm.
he had actually a CD player hooked to it, and these big speakers hooked to it, and I mean he was thumping pretty good. And
Uh huh.
I go up to this guy and said, "Man," I said, "Man, I love your electric chair." And all of a sudden he says to me, "I'm not a criminal." I said, "Huh?" He
That's
says,
true.
he said, "I'm not a criminal." He said, "I said, well, I didn't say you're a criminal." He said, "I'm in an electric chair." Yeah, it runs off the electricity. He goes, "No, this is called a power chair." I said,
Wow.
"Oh, excuse me, man."
Right?
You know, but there you go. Here you are changing the terminology from electric chair, meaning criminals get
Yeah.
electrocuted, put to death, and he didn't want to
Yeah.
be known as in a electric chair
I
with
love that.
possibility of death, and he turned it to it's a power chair.
I love that.
So,
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. It's like I work military health was one of my clients, and like I mentioned, working with some pretty amazing human beings. I have
mhm.
a whole level of respect for our military
Yeah,
and
these
military
people would
families.
come back mangled, missing limbs,
Yeah.
blind, and
Yep.
head trauma. Man,
Oh yeah. Burns.
for us, they go out there and sacrifice their lives for you and me to be able to do what we're doing.
Yeah, and it's easy to keep that out of consciousness. And when I was working there, or I had the opportunity to be there, one of the places that I went was Walter Reed before they closed down. And that was in the
Hmm.
news, but the news likes to talk about how bad things are. There are always things that can be better,
Oh
but there's some
yeah,
really good
I
people.
limit myself, very limit myself to the news. I need to know what's going on in my part of the world. I don't need to know everybody else's
Yeah,
business, and I need to
yeah,
know if it's I need to know if it's raining out there or if there's a murderer on the loose in my
right.
city. Other than that, I don't care to know anything.
Yeah, exactly. If it's important, somebody will tell me. But well, and there's always things that I am very uh, passionate about the care for our military too. So
Hmm.
there's always things. So,
Hmm.
but at the same time, the people that are caring are pretty amazing human beings. And being at Walter Reed, a lot of the military treatment facilities have special focus areas, specialty areas. Like in San Antonio, it's the burn center. In Walter Reed, it was for amputees. And
Hmm.
so I walked through the lobby to go get to where I was at, and you know, people that are smiling and saying hi, and they have no legs.
Yeah,
Just another guy I saw had one arm. That's it. He didn't have two, and he had no legs. And he was in the lobby, and he was alive, and everybody's on their own timeline on that journey. And I learned so much being there because I asked a lot of questions about what's the right way to approach and say thank you? Or is that like everybody's in their own version of their story or journey
Mm-hmm.
around it? And not everybody wants to hear that. Some people are
Oh
just
yeah.
pissed,
Oh yeah.
the different stages. And so it's just more, thanking them for their service or whatnot. But the bottom line is that there are different ways that people come to terms with that or can live, like with putting the cape or calling it, a power chair. And a lot of that around some of the injuries and things that the rehabilitation and things that our military goes through. It's also about the family too. I just want to put that out there.
Oh yes.
A lot of times.
That's where I talk to people about this. I mean, I know you say family, and I say family as well, but I push it a little further as having a support system. You've got
Yeah.
your friend that's going to be here that you've had for 20 years. That's going to be with you, or you're going to meet this one friend that's been in your life for 1 week, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're out of here. But they were just so huge in your life that week you can't
Oh,
forget
yeah.
them. So it's just
Yeah.
yeah. So when we say family, I extend it to your support system.
For sure. And, I learned that when one of the things that I supported when I was working with PricewaterhouseCoopers is we helped the Department of Defense. Here's a big mouthful, stand
There
up.
you go.
Defense Center of Excellence, Psychological Health and Traumatic Brain Injury. So it was the
Yeah.
DGO, PH, and TBI. And it was all about how to better serve and help create resilience within the military for people so that they can overcome and prevent some of that stuff. They were doing some cool stuff like partnering with the NFL for improving helmets. And, once there is, result where it needs what's causing it, some of the cool things they would do. But one of the things, a lot of it was about how to communicate. And a big piece was it was very much stressed that it's not just about our military, it's about military families and the community. Because when people come back with injury, the family is very much involved, or the community is very much, the people are different now. They're different than when they went out to theater. They come back home and they have things that changes their personalities, or families have a big role in that. So that's just something to put out there too. Is
Well, and it's not that they come back mangled or disabled, whatever. It's what they visualized and
yeah.
saw that we would never see
Oh yeah,
that affects them
for sure.
afterwards. And it's amazing how we're all different, and it's amazing how it affects each and every one of us. Some of us, we see it and we're able to block and get away, and then there's others that see it and then that's it the rest of their life. So it's for
Yeah.
that as well. So it's not just coming back mangled and disabled
Oh,
and
for sure.
blind and amputated and
Yep.
whatever. It's man.
Yeah, they
I
call
think
that
that'd be
wound
just
before.
that'd be just as hard just seeing
Yep,
things from there.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, there was this really cool thing and that they did at another big long word center of excellence
Mm-hmm.
for that was funded by someone in the normal world. Normal's not the right word, but in the non-government world, it was a philanthropist funded this center called the National Intrepid Center of Excellence, and it was all about the process for identifying triggers. And this is very relevant here because it's the same thing. It's what's triggering some of the reactions around PTSD and those kinds of things. And so it was where they would put them through 10 stages. In like one room they would fire a gun, another room they would show different things, like an experience to try and find out what the trigger is and where this is going with the relevance. Is we all have these. It's like, how do you identify them, which goes back to awareness. But what they had was one of two in the world. I forget what it was called. There was only two of these in the world, but it was like a big IMAX, when it used to be like that big, where it looks like your peripheral, like you're in the environment. And they had this little disc in the middle of this room, and they would put you in a sling and put you in the middle of this thing where they could completely manage the gravity of it. And so they could put you in different situations and it would feel like you're skiing It was sort of like the whatever those things are called, the Oculus or virtual realities,
Oh yeah,
except
yeah, yeah, yeah.
all the movement that goes with it. So it's literally like you're there, and they would change the environment and try and see what the trigger was, because especially PTSD, sometimes we have no idea, we just know that something's off. And so it's the same thing where you can apply it to all of us, and just the opportunity that happened to be my client, that I got to work with and gain all of this knowledge and awareness, is such a gift in and of itself. But it's like, it also teaches all of us, regardless of whether we have PTSD or just an experience, and like changing language from values to treasures, or to-do list to playlist, or journey map from strategy, and that would come from yourself. I just was talking to someone who's been through a program, and she said, one of the things I really love about your program is it's about creating it so that it's working for each individual. It's not just this blanket thing, and it's teaching how to create that for themselves. So I can't come up with those words for you. It has to come from within, and that goes back to feelings. So in terms of being able to do something, and come away with this, even right this second, having the opportunity to know that you can tap into something as simple as a feeling of what you're feeling now, and what can I do instead. And if you don't know the answer, what feeling do I want to have instead, then you could say, what are 3 things that could get me closer to knowing my path? Because there's always at least 3 ways to get somewhere. So it's that kind of thing where no matter where you are, changing the environment, like what they did with that, whatever that thing's called. I call it a gravitron, but that's not what it is. It's something cooler. And they could even put people in there with no legs.
I was just thinking the Matrix.
Yeah, right. Like they could put you in there with no matter what, like, and you could
Yeah.
still feel so it's like changing your environment, or putting a potted plant on your desk for people who are really into nature, going outside, whatever it is, like knowing the feeling that you want to have is giving you direction. It gives you a way forward without having to know the answers, because sometimes we feel like we have to all these answers. And so that's really what my
I can see a point you listened a minute ago where you said that what was you feeling, what would you want it to be or whatnot, and they didn't know, but they do know, I don't want to feel like this anymore.
Yeah.
And then you trying to explore what other areas would be your interest that would give you this different experience, this different feeling.
So. Yeah, because that's all life is. I mean, when we think about it, the stuff that we want, or the things we want to do, are only to give us a feeling. Or what's the point, right? Like if we just had money but had no reaction to it, it's like there is a reaction. There is something that money is giving us a feeling about, or whatever it is. So if we don't know what we want, we know that we want a feeling and can work backwards to get to what we want, or explore it even, if we don't know. Because that's what kept me in my career of, while I loved the impact that I was making, the culture and amount of work and stress that went along with that was really impacting my ability to have an enjoyable life. Yet it took me another decade to get out, but I was applying the things that I can now.
The BlackBerry infamous swinging in the car. Now, from the emotions and the feelings of throwing that BlackBerry in the car.
Yeah.
Is that what birthed the Journal Fuel?
With Journey Fuel, well, that was way before. It was, I was realizing that, that was 10 years before I got to where I am now, for being able to share the process and being able to get, move on from where I was to be able to focus on this. But it's when I threw that BlackBerry, that was so not me. And it was because I couldn't find a parking spot.
There you go.
And I was like, wow. And then I would even just drive around with my kids, and I couldn't find a parking spot again, where I was trying to find this post office, and I couldn't, and I was so pissed. I was like, you're going to need to tell your teachers at school that your mommy went to a mental institution because she couldn't find a parking spot at the post office. I mean, it was little things.
Oh, man. Don't let the postal service know you were having this mental
Right?
thing.
Maybe
Wait,
that's what it is. It's like
yeah.
you find some parking. But sometimes having a moment like that has to wake us up. It goes back to awareness, and just without getting boring, the change management framework that I've rejiggered so people don't really realize that they're going through it, which is the whole point, is you don't want to feel like you're in a process. But it's called ADKAR, and it's stands for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. But it's absolutely linear. There is no to get real change that's going to be lasting and enjoyable. It starts with awareness, but then desire. You can't build desire without awareness. And so a lot of times we'll just feel like we want to change, so we go get knowledge, but we missed awareness. So now we're going to be in knowledge without some of the things that we would have done had we followed the process. So we like to go learn and go to these seminars and spend all this money and then get mad or frustrated or upset that we're not changing. And it's just because we missed a step, because the way it works in human behavior, and part of the change management methodology, is that humans will go back to what's familiar unless there's like a real understanding of what it is, what the reason is, and then how to build a desire strong enough to know that that's important. Otherwise, we're not going to absorb the knowledge when we're hearing it in the same fashion. So we might be showing up thinking we're learning stuff, and maybe we are, but there's stuff we're missing that we're just not absorbing because we missed a step. So that's where, knowledge, and then just having knowledge is not going to get you the results. It's the ability to apply the knowledge. And that's another piece that's has oftentimes been missing, that I found where my calling comes in with Journey Fuel, is the ability to apply the knowledge. It's just because something new, it's new. So how do you learn how to change your whole life and have the ability to apply it if you haven't, really gotten some of the coaching or even the guidance and tools that you can still apply to yourself and play with and train your bodies and muscles and thoughts. But it's having the tools to create the ability, and then the reinforcement is really important. That's where the fuel part comes in. So journey is, life's a journey. Life's greatest tragedy is having not enjoyed the trip. And that's the best BMW ad ever. That's where I got that. We think of journey as like this big thing, but you can even make each day its very own journey. And for me, the little things like that are actually really big life-altering things, because I feel like if I can take this and just turn it into, what am I going to do today to enjoy my journey? And you think about journeys of fun things, what is it that I want to see? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And how to have a playlist, like an itinerary instead of a plan. All these little things that make it enjoyable. But the fuel is, we need to keep that going, that reinforcement, that we're going to burn out if we don't have fuel. So it's, how do you have all of those pieces in the right order so that you can really live a life you love waking up to, which is the entire mission of Journey Fuel. So that's where that came from. And I've been really blessed to be able to focus on this now as where high vision funding, I call it, versus an income, to be able to live the life that I love waking up to, which as a result of that is creating a ripple effect that enables other people to do the same. So that's the beauty of it. And just, for everyone listening, it's, if you had a life you love waking up to, what would that feel like? And, instead of feeling like this when you get out of bed in the morning, what do you want to feel instead? And what's one thing you can do that can at least get you closer to that? Even if it's, I don't know. Well, what's one thing you can do to learn to know? Who can I go talk to? What can I read? What can I listen to? Professor of Perseverance for sure.
Amen, sister. Throw it out there.
Huh?
I said, amen, sister. Put it out there.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's the Professor of Perseverance. It's all these little things that you can draw upon on our journeys of, well, what is it that our resources we can have available that we may not be thinking about? And it could be something that's totally accessible to us that we just haven't, let the snow settle to think, okay, wait, oh, I have that. And oh, I know that the professor of perseverance is totally going to be able to boost me up. And from that, I can learn stuff. Or, even if you're not ready for that, let's say, okay, well, yeah, that sounds like a should to me right now, even just because of my mind state. Like to go learn sounds like a should. Well, okay, what doesn't feel like a should? It's like I did this one thing with someone the other day where it's like, oh yeah, we should go to the gym, and it's like, well, why? Because I want to feel like this. Okay, well now I know the feeling, but I still don't want to go. So what can I do? What do I have the capacity to do right now? And so it's, well, as a woman, going and getting that cute sports bra. I'll go get that'll be
It's
my
easy for you to say.
right? That'll be my a little harder and takes a little more effort.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if I buy that today is my action. And then the next day I'm going to get the pants. And then the next day I'm going to get the amazing shoes. And then pretty soon by the fourth day, you've got this cute outfit that you just can't wait to wear and go to the gym. So it's how do you build doing something you want to do to get to the next piece so it doesn't feel like a should. So if something's feeling like a should, like I should do that, or it's a to-do, how do you turn it into something that would go on a playlist that would be more interesting or fun or enjoyable and
I was
using,
thinking enjoyable, productive.
yeah, or whatever feeling that you
Yeah,
want,
yeah.
right?
So
So knowing the feeling can
I'm
get
thinking of a
you
lot of this as you're talking. I'm thinking a lot of this as a jigsaw puzzle, grabbing the
totally
right pieces and putting them together. You can't put this piece in till you get this piece in, and
right.
going from there. And um, not that you have to go A, B, C in order. You can bounce around, but it's probably
Yeah.
more productive to go in a certain pattern from this. So
Yeah, and having awareness of looking at the cover of the box of the puzzle, without that, it's like, what? Or, starting on the edge pieces so you know where the next piece is. And then it's just so rewarding when something fits, but it's, this doesn't fit. Well, okay, which pieces, would I want to try? And so you
hmm
can use all these analogies for yourself to be empowering. That's the other thing too, is when I was going through my divorce, which I like, I'm very happy that I did that. It was not a sad thing. It's a liberating thing,
hmm
which I'll
hmm
save for another day, but maybe you can bring me back on.
we
But
can do that.
right, it's all about, like, it took so much for me to get the courage and the willpower to even say that I wanted this divorce, all the stuff that happened afterwards, that keeping that going for myself. For me, I just thought, okay, what can I do that'll help give me strength? And I remember when I was pregnant, they would say, oh, when you're going to have those contractions, you just think of where you want to be. And I'm like, screw that. I'm not going to think about the beach. I feel like my insides are ripping off. So
Yeah,
it didn't
you.
work then.
That's when
But
you say that's what a man would say.
or I don't even know who would say it,
Yeah.
but anyone who just, it was, sometimes it works for people, right? But it was for, and then I thought, well, okay, well, maybe I could play it in a different way. And this way it was like, okay, well, I'm a big water person, in the ocean, I'm like Moana. I just feel like called to the water. And when I'm there, I'm at a different centering point. And I just thought
hmm
about it like, okay, I'm feeling like I'm in that undertow. You've been in the water, trying to get to shore, but it just starts pulling you back. Like, and the more time that you're in that pull, like it gets stronger and stronger. And you have a choice of just going with the current and going off to God knows how far away, like speaking to Tom Hanks, Castaway.
That's right. That's right.
If you let yourself go, like you're going to go further back than you started from, right? And then if I keep going, do I have the strength to do that? And then what if I don't? And I thought, well, I had gotten to where I was at least touching sand with my feet. I'd gone so far, but that pull was still there, and I'm almost, you could feel almost breaking out of that, knowing that you're almost there, but like now it hits your ankles and starts to really pull you back. And so it's like, okay, well, if I let myself go, I don't know that I'll ever have the strength to come back. I don't know now that I know how hard it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you where it's like, well, do I want that to happen? No. So if you just stop and let it pass, you can you at least stay where you're at for a second versus losing and letting go. Just, okay, I'm going to stand here until I let that pass, and then I'll start walking again. And pretty soon you're like, well, I'm on the sand. But for me, every time it would get super hard, I would really imagine feeling that undertow. And do I really want to feel like I did before, knowing that I am so close to freedom if I just, keep going and know my why. So,
Well, I'm glad that you, well, that's one of my next videos I've done to tell myself is escape from your own Alcatraz.
yeah,
So, and
for sure.
doing a for mental where you're
Yeah.
trapped in your own mental state in your
Yeah.
own 8-inch cell, and
Mm-hmm.
so so it's good that you finally was able to again escape from your own Alcatraz from
Mm-hmm.
there. So, all right,
Yeah.
man, Stacy, you have thrown a lot at us here, and it's been fun. And I would love to have you back in. You wouldn't be the first person I've had 2 or 3 times because we have a lot to talk about. And
Yeah,
so
sure. I
I
would
wouldn't
love
mind,
that.
yeah, that way we can get your programs pushed out a little even more. So
Yeah,
if you
that
want to
would
take a
be
minute here, let's go ahead and your social media, website,
fantastic.
programs that you want to push out to for people.
Yeah, so walkthetalkweekend.com. So, walk in the talk weekend, walkthetalkweekend.com. And that is where you can always go to get to my foundation program that I was saying that, when you go through that, that really sets the stage for getting to where now you're getting the ability to be able to get to the next step. And that you can always go there. I just had the last one. So when you go to the website, just put in POP or Professor of Perseverance or whatever you want to put podcast, because I want to gift your audience this program. It's an $897 program, but I'm so passionate about keeping it accessible to people. This is one of those where I want to gift you and your audience, everybody listening, the opportunity to go to that at no cost.
We'll make it easy and keep it POP, POP.
Pop, yeah, yes. And so when you sign up, all you got to do is put your name and where you heard about it. Just put pop, and then we'll get you enrolled. And you can also bring somebody with you at no cost. So a twofer. And
I
the
appreciate
dates
that for
will
the
be announced.
listeners.
Our listeners.
Thank you that for the listeners. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I encourage any step that you can take is empowerment and building trust in yourself. So even just going to the website is an action you can take right now, and just to see about it. If somebody's going to give you a gift of living a life you love waking up to, why wouldn't you take that out?
This would be a great opportunity for someone to bring their friend they know
Yeah.
needs help that they've been neglecting and not doing themselves. This would be a
Yeah.
great opportunity to say, hey, I got something for both of us to do.
Yeah.
And go through the program with them.
Absolutely. And sometimes, it's like what we were talking about in the beginning is the support and the community. And sometimes if it's not for you and someone else, it could be that one thing. And even it's the act of sharing it that they know you care, whatever it is, right? So there's always that. And that's the easiest way that site is always up. So even if I don't have a date published, you can definitely enroll, and I'll be getting the dates out soon. And the other way is to go to @YourJourneyFuel on Facebook. And that's where there's always programs that I'm announcing. I'm going to have some new things that I'm doing very soon, building right now that take less than 2.5 days, that are, that you don't have to wait for that date. So there's lots of different ways, but those two things, walkthetalkweekend.com, you'll definitely be able to make sure. The trick is to make sure that you check your spam whenever you sign up, and connect@journeyfuel.com. Connect@journeyfuel.com is the email that you want to look for in your mailbox. Put in your address book, so then you can make sure I can share anything else that comes up.
So. All right, awesome. And I'll put those links in the show notes to make
Great.
it easier for people to come by and get it afterwards as well. So,
yeah.
Stacy, you are an amazing person, and boy, I'm glad that we met. I'm glad that you met up. Well, we met up on that pod match.
Yeah, me too.
And then you got my attention quick when you talk about we're going to do the white man overbite, and
yes,
so you got my attention quick. There you go. It's right. That's all I could do.
Yeah, I love it. That's so great.
From there.
Yeah.
All right.
And
so
I just want to leave one last thing for
go
people
ahead.
so
Go
they
ahead.
don't feel overwhelmed.
Yep. Go ahead.
Anytime you're, a tip, would be to leave you with so you don't feel overwhelmed. Because sometimes when we hear a lot of things and we write things down, we might feel like, oh gosh, I can't do any of it. Is just pick one thing, and try it. And, use your feelings to guide you of, well, how do I want to feel? And what's one thing I can do today to feel that way? And it might just be signing up for Walk the Talk weekend, because that'll help you feel like you're taking action. So I just want to make sure people don't feel overwhelmed.
Yeah. It goes to the how do you eat an elephant, right?
Yeah.
One bite at a time. So pick one thing and then get to master that one, and then jump to the next one. So
yep. And you don't have to know where to go. You just know what thing will get you closer to knowing what to do next, and just take it baby steps, one at a time.
There we go. Awesome. So, you've been a joy here. Been a what we would call, because I'm in Tennessee, but we'll say you've been a Georgia peach. And
I love it.
From
you
there,
got some good barbecue sauce out in Tennessee.
Tennessee they do pretty good, especially in the Memphis area. I'm in right outside of Nashville, but they do pretty good. So from there. So, all right, Stacy, hey, we know there's people hurting and struggling today. If you can leave us with one piece of positive information that to help them get through today, that'd be a blessing.
Yeah, it would be let the snow settle, whether it's, going to the bathroom and think about the snow and just breathe for a second and think. There's a thing called stop, breathe, and ask. Stop, breathe, and ask yourself, what's one thing, how do I want to feel instead? And what's one thing I can do now to take action on that? Because then you're building that trust, that muscle of trust in yourself, and the success, building your success. So what's one thing you can do to get the feeling you want? And it will absolutely bring you to a life you love waking up to. It's just the experience of life will be unfolding the way you want it.
Amen, sister. Hey, we'll get into the next time when we get together, and I want to talk some about the take action plan.
Yeah.
Because I find that that is the hardest one to do of all your strategies you put out there. Because how many people start a book but they don't finish it? How many start a program, don't finish it? How many do whatever, don't finish it? And so the taking action and completing it through, that's the hardest thing.
Yeah, and that's part of
a lot of people.
That's where I got with the name of Walk the Talk Weekend, is because it's walking the talk, and having the support and the tools to get there is so important. So give yourself some grace that you're not already there, knowing that you haven't learned everything there is to learn about how to do that in a fun way. And then do that one reflection. How do I want to feel? And what's one thing I can do to get there?
Amen, sister. All right. Appreciate you being here, Stacy. And we're going to hit you up again later on, and we'll get some, get some more valuable information and education and inspiration and motivation. Hey, everybody else, be sure to share us out to someone you know there's someone that could use some help out here. So share us out with them. And again, thank you, Stacy, for being here. Everybody else, hey, thank you for being here. Who am I? I'm the Professor of Perseverance, Dr. James Perdue. The Professor of Perseverance podcast. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.